today's marketing is an economy of attention. And it's not like some people say it's about attention span. I don't think people like binge watch 10 hours and 20 hours of series if they want to. It's just like if you get people hooked enough that they stick through. So our competitive edge was innovation. You can say that. So like when we started, it was just AMP, which was like a Google sourced stuff, and Google was giving support to this AMP framework, and it used to like at that time it was like supported by Yahoo Mail, Mail, and Gmail. Right now, like there are a couple of more clients have started showing support for that. But what has happened down the line is we have even created an HTML interactive version of the email.
Hi, Zishan. Welcome to the show. So excited to have you here. And finally, we are having this conversation. Waited long enough for this, but I'm so excited we are finally doing this.
Hey, Meeta, thanks for having me. And yes, finally, this thing is happening, and I am kind of quite excited what we talk about today.
Just as a preface for the audience, in this conversation, we are basically going to chat with Zishan, who is the head of marketing at Mailmodo. And he was the first marketing hire. He's built team from scratch, from solo marketer to like a team of 8+ people right now. And as an early stage startup marketer myself, I'm also interested in understanding how have others kind of, done their GTM motions, how they have done their 0 to 1, 1 to 10 kind of journeys. And that's what Mailmodo is doing right now. So this conversation is going to be all about that. So just setting the stage for it. And let's dive in. Okay, I
Yes.
think the very first thing that I have. So you were the first marketer, the first marketing hire at Mailmodo, and I've also used and seen the platform briefly. Though, like I said, I did not have the
Mhm.
pleasure of kind of incorporating it in our tech stack completely, but I know the platform is great. So, as a email marketing platform with interactive, email ability, the AMP feature, I think email marketing space in general is fairly congested. So, as a first marketing hire, how
Correct.
did you kind of take up that challenge of, how to position this platform? And how did your kind of GTM motion look like in the early days?
Okay, so just one correction there. I was technically, so this is a bit of technicality. I was not technically the first marketing hire if you consider Akib, the CEO, who also was the the marketing lead at that time. So he used to. It was his idea. It was a marketing driven product, and by the time when I joined, he already had a lot of things going on. Like he had set up the website and he was already working with some content writers to get some SEO content up and going. So just on technicalities, uh, I think if you can call that the first marketing hire, great. But yeah, when I joined, what was the situation was that we had like Akev had quite a clear idea where he wanted to proceed with the product because as you rightly mentioned, right, that the email marketing and email automation field is like utterly crowded and it's even claustrophobic if you are a marketer. So what happened was that you one of the things is there that the good thing about crowded markets is that it shows that there is a demand for such products. And if you build something solid, something improved, it might work if you are able to like beat the giants or the people with the prime mover advantage. The downside of this is if you're just starting out, you're a small startup and you are like going to compete with giants like MailChimp and Constant Contact and Active Campaign, you need to actually come up with something solid, something viable that can give you some kind of I would not say head start, but some kind of advantage, competitive differentiator over them. So for us, Akib had like come across this idea of AMP email, which basically meant that you could place a form or other kind of interactive elements like quizzes and games, and like we even placed a Super Mario game inside email. So all those kinds of things was now possible with email if you were using some framework called AMP emails. Now, none of these players had that. So, our competitive edge was innovation. You can say that. So, like when we started, it was just AMP, which was like a Google sourced stuff, and Google was giving support to this AMP framework, and it used to like at that time it was like supported by Yahoo Mail, Mail, and Gmail. Right now, like there are a couple of more clients have started showing support for that. But what has happened down the line is we have even created an HTML interactive version of the email. So right today, we are also like compatible with Apple Mail, which basically means that we are not just dependent on MP. So our innovation technically was like making emails interactive. AMP email was just the tech that was powering that at that point of time. So our position at that point of time was very clear that we wanted to be an email marketing platform that let you do more than just traditional marketing. And we kind of came up our one of our first customer, which was Razor Pay. They did a POC with us, and they saw 257% more increase in NPS surveys. So basically, I think all the product companies, they are like sending these NPS surveys where they ask if you promote this product amongst your referrals or amongst your network of friends. So we put that as a form inside email, and they saw a whooping 257% increase in the submission rate. And that kind of set the tone for the rest of the clients to kind of emulate that kind of success. So every when we started, and I remember we launched on product, and that was the first time we went public with it. And the kind of responses we got from the product and community was amazing. It kind of gave us confidence that this idea was something that was required, and it was something that might eventually work. And I think like over a period of time, that position has helped us build a kind of brand which is kind of synonymous with interactive emails. Is We are also like cutting grounds into the core email marketing and email automation platforms, because let's face it, like interactive email was just kind of a stepping stone. People don't just need interactive emails, they need the entire setup. They want like an editor, they want deliverability infrastructure, they need automation infrastructure, they want to send campaigns, they have different scheduling functions. So kind of we bundled all of that. Interactive email is how we were kind of positioning ourselves, and later like we kind of experimented with lots of these positions. Like recently we started experimenting with this idea that what if we just position ourselves as another email marketing platform? How does that work? So like there are lots of clients who just come to us because of basic email marketing requirements. They don't need interactive emails. They just want to send emails. They have some transactional use cases, or they have some kind of automation to set up, and they join Mailmodo and use it. That's great. So we also kind of experimented with that. So that was we already like we always had this puzzle. Like, do we want to go like horizontal and call ourselves another competitor of MailChimp, or we wanted to say like we are a competitor of MailChimp, but we have something that MailChimp doesn't have at this point of time, which is interactive emails. And MailChimp doesn't have even today, I guess, interactive emails. But like, so technically that was what our core position was. And uh, 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 it kind of helped us build a brand that today, like when I see people writing blogs on interactive emails, and not just interactive emails, on general email marketing, and they kind of, or on Reddit forums, they kind of recommend Mailmodo. It kind of just shows that, and we are mentioned along with like let's say Mailchimp or ActiveCampaign shows us that we were able to cut into all that distraction. Like let's face it, there are like more than 300 players in the market, and if you can get into the top 20 even if you're so late to business, that's something to be proud of, I guess. Does that like answer your question?
Yeah, yeah, it absolutely does. I think that's always the challenge for a marketer, right? Especially uh, any kind of product which is kind of built for marketers. As it is, it's a bit of crowded space, which means like differentiation is going to kind of help you, gain some ground there, especially like if you are, as you mentioned, late entrant to the market. And I think the AMP kind of really helped you stand apart. Actually, that was also the key reason why we brought in Mailmodo in our tech stack as well. We were sending out a whole bunch of emails,
Yeah.
and we wanted people to interact within the inbox itself and not take them away. So, how do we kind of increase that engagement within there and also get whatever it is that we wanted out of that interaction? So, which is how the whole conversation also started for us, and which is how we also got into Mailmodo in the first place. So, I think you were definitely on to something there. Okay, I think so. Right now, my next question, Zishan, is more around. Okay, so we kind of figured out, like, understood if like you're operating in a very crowded space, like how do you approach that as a problem? And I think you kind of explained that so well. What I'm curious about next is how did the first channel experiments kind of look like for you? So when you were figuring out what channels would work, uh, what is it that you did? Like how did you go about vetting and validating channels? What were your early experiments on those fronts?
So, one thing, like one of the advantages as a marketer, if you're in a crowded market, is that you have lots of sources to copy from. You can actually go through lots of your competitors, see what works for them, and just keep doing it. Like, albeit maybe you want to just change the messaging or the positioning that you have. For example, Mailchimp uh, used to positions themselves as an email marketing platform, right? And what works for them? SEO. Like they are one of the undisputed leaders in SEO right now, and back then as well. So it was very easy for us to figure out some of the channels that will definitely work for us. One was SEO, search, because everybody was searching for email marketing platforms on these search engines, and we wanted to be there. One of the things that Akib had instituted even before I joined in was he had already set up a basics CMS, and he was publishing some blogs, which is what I took over when I joined, and we started scaling that up. So when I joined, like we used to get like 300 traffic in a month, 300 like users in a month, and in from our SEO content. Later, that kind of upscaled to like a lot of X, like 1000x and stuff, even more. Uh, so what actually we were very sure about is that SEO is going to work. It's just a matter of how we execute it, how well we execute it, and when, because again, like SEO is not a very, like, you can engineer it, but you cannot actually predict when it will kick in. So we had that initial guffaw with SEO because we are not able to like see the traffic initially, and but when it came in like like helped us flourish a lot with the kind of traffic it sent our way. The second thing that really worked for us was the founder network. So Akib had lots of friends and professionals in his network who actually were very adamant to test out these tools. So an extension of the founder network was also the social media profile of the founder, because like let's face it, like if you are a very early stage brand and you just create some brand profile and you think that that will work just because you have created a brand profile, not gonna work most of the time, at least. So but we cashed on this founder's profile. So Akib's profile is where we got a lot of customers from. So of course, like we were not able to attribute it very directly or very technically, but we knew that whenever we post a certain kind of content from his profile, we used to see things changing on our in our traffic, in our signups, and that kind of like gave us the confidence that this is going in the correct manner. So it was after our initial validation from the product community that I already mentioned, because I'll tell you, it was not just about like scaling up, because we are also trying to validate this idea of interactive emails. Like where do we actually, even though I might say that we are very sure about the positioning, but you always kind of keep thinking through if there's a better position available for you to take in the market. And I think that should be the natural, rational point of view for any marketer or founder. Like you'll always have to think if there's a better position available and you want to take that up. So that was there, but like the initial traction and the initial, like we kind of were the product number one on product and that day, kind when we got lots of sign up, that helped us create a lot of feedback for the product team, as well as it also gave us the confidence on around positioning. And it also like helped us understand that community might also help us. So we did not do a lot of things initially in the community because but we started like talking to people. Like there's a very popular community in email marketing called Email Geeks. So we started talking, following that, listening to what people are talking around in those communities, what actually works for them, what are their pain points, where do they hang out. So I don't know, like if you remember, there was a Clubhouse app that came out exactly the time that we launched Mailmodo. And they were having some kind of discussions, and me and Ake both went there, and we were talking about
I do
interactive
remember
emails because,
all.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So what happened was that we went to the Clubhouse app and we talked to these bunch of email geeks about what we were doing, and they were kind of excited to dig that because some of the folks in email marketing industry had tried to create this kind of experience. So people wanted emails to look like magic, but there was no direct solution that helped them actually do it. So kind of we were catching on all these channels. And I told you about SEO, and later we started like creating content around email marketing, and that was where we branched out later in as our marketing matured, as our product matured, we started branching out into content marketing, like not just talking about interactive emails, but talking about things that our ICPs care about, ICPs face issues with, and we wanted to be there for them with respect to benchmarks, with respect to reports, with respect to industry news and industry best practices. So, anyways, we could be for them. That actually meant like being in front of our ICP, and we knew that that would basically get cashed in at some point later in our brand journey. So yeah, like these were the this is the basic idea we had initially, and we kind of picked one channel after another. Sometimes like initially like the social media and the SEO thing were rolling simultaneously, but then we started bringing different channels. We tried even performance marketing later, but yeah, like it was like a lot of trials and errors. Then we said that okay, this is what works for us. Let's go ahead with this.
Got it. I think it's very interesting to understand, like, firstly, like you very aptly mentioned, by the way, Akib was the marketer number one. And also, I think it goes on to say as well, right? In most setups, and I think one of my guests kind of very famously put it previously, at startups, CEO is the first CMO, so to speak. It's
Yes.
always like an unvarnished truth. They kind of shape things up in marketing. Uh, and in your case, I think especially with Mailmodo, Akib laid like a foundation to a huge extent. So I think that is there. And also kind of mix of channels that you have here, like right from product hunt. I think for a SaaS product, it makes sense to have like a product hunt launch. People do like very major launches. They kind of create a lot of buzz around it because it's a good way to get signups, some validation, feedback around the product. So obviously, it's like a no-brainer to kind of go out after this. But it's interesting to see that you kind of put in some effort with Clubhouse and all. So even with those emerging
Yeah.
channels, uh, it's kind of nice to see you take those bets over there as well. And I think kind of
Yeah.
mentioned this in the offing that you started off with content pieces, started with blog, but then later it kind of branched into like a whole new thing altogether. And that kind of brings me to this
Mhm.
very interesting anecdote you shared when we first met. And that was around the state of email marketing report. I think Mailmodo has very
Yes.
famously been doing like an report, uh, first of its kind every single year for this particular, problem statement, which is email marketing. Uh, can you also give like shed a little light around how you came about doing this report? Because it's original research, primary research, and comes with great insights. And I think you had some interesting things happened in year one of launching this particular report as well.
Yes. So, state of email, just to give you some more context around it, we are like in the fourth year of state of email. Like we have launched four editions, 2022 to 2025 so far, and I think like we'll also be doing it in 2026. So, what the precursor to the state of email report was actually in the first year. What we did was we created an ebook, a report on subject lines. So we wanted to, as I told you, like once we had kind of set up some basic channels, we wanted to branch out the content because let's face it, you cannot just keep talking about like interactive emails all day, all long, right? So you want to like understand what the ICP needs at this point of time, and you want to create a kind of rapport with them, a relationship, public relationship with them, and that is where like good content, useful content comes in. So what we did for the first thing was that we wanted to have create this kind of hot leadership moment for Mailmodo, where we want to say that okay, this new kid on the block is going to show you very new insightful things that you might have missed so far. So what we did at that point of time, we thought like what is the most basic thing that every email marketer thinks about, and we knew it was subject line. Of course, like it's not an objective fact, but that is what like we figured out at that point of time, and we created a framework with someone called Ekaterina. She was like she's a great copywriter, and we have a great relationship as a partner with her, and we built this where we kind of sent out lots of email to lots of people on subject line. We even sent campaigns where we tested the subject line and came up with a framework of how you do subject lines better, like what kind of elements do you use? Do you use FOMO? Do you use urgency? Do you use just a joke? How does it augur for your audience? What kind of ICP is warm to what kind of jokes? Stuff like that, right? We had like lots of work going into that. And we wanted it to be the kind of a new stuff because internet was already filled, even now is filled with lots of content on how to write subject lines. So we had to, every time we did something, we had to bring something new to the table because novelty was kind of table stake for us as a new brand. So that went really well. So like, so we got like 700 downloads for that book in a week. And at that point of time, we did not know if it was good or bad because we had no benchmark. Today, like kind of, I can say it was great, given the kind of attention, the way that, you know, the entire attention economy runs because of like various reasons. But that led us to say that, okay, we can inflate this, create something more memorable, create something that is even grander, which will like not just involve people who are concerned about subject lines, but it might give people more insights into how email marketing as a whole functions and what are the various pitfalls, various like best practices they might be missing on. So that is how the germ of state of email came into our brains, and kind of like we rattled that idea for some time. Like we had discussions whether we should do it because it was at that point of time we are a very lean team marketing wise as well, and we did not know if we wanted to spend that kind of bandwidth there. So what we essentially did was that we took a call, like, and said that okay, let's do it, let's try it. We won't know unless we try it. And the first thing we did was like we had to understand how do you build this entire report, right? Because we had some data, but we cannot expose our clients' data because of confidentiality and trust and all that. And we care about like data privacy a lot at Mailmodo. So we had to like get some data, some consensual data from people. So what we did was we started doing surveys. We sent out lots of surveys. And the best part was we used Mailmodo's AMP emails with forms in the survey. So it was kind of a great product placement for us. We were kind of showing them by doing it. And those people actually, like, we were not even sure if you'd get responses on people with people. And we had like by that time we had like our lists from people who had participated in subject line. There were other folks who were interested. We had a customer list. We had people who had signed up. We reached out to all of those people that would you want to participate in this, because this is what we are going to create. And we were like also very sure, like we did not have anything to offer them as leverage, but we said like this insight would help you get featured and all that. So I think people are very kind enough. Many of them answered, and we got like 2 to 5% of submission rate on that. So like that was very amazing for us. And then once that worked, like we got, if I remember correctly, we had like 600 to 700 people answering that survey. And we also reached out to other places with that survey. That survey was kind of the foundation that went into state of email. So we said that it's not just our data, it's your data. You kind of own it, and we kind of gave credit to everyone that participated in the survey. So essentially, because I'll tell you a few things about email marketing. Like there are objective facts and numbers in email marketing, like what works in real estate, what kind of open rates are you seeing in real estates. But there are lots of uh, practices and practices that you have to understand, which might vary from brands to brands. For example, like how often do you audit your welcome flow? Like if you have a brand, you have a welcome flow. How often do you audit it? Audit it. When do you audit it? What's the trigger for you to do get into an audit? All these questions are something that nobody actually had literature on. It's just not available on the internet. So that is where we found that, and people had that questions. We ourselves had that question that, okay, should we like audit this? Should we spend our bandwidth doing this email? Because let's face it, like every 3 months, every quarter, our product was very different from what it was the last quarter. And it made sense to change your product education emails and stuff like that. So we put all our questions, all our doubts into the report and kind of answered our own questions. Like we kind of visualized ourselves as our ICP, because technically we use Mailmodo a lot as the marketing team. Like the product team tells we are the power users of Mailmodo, which is kind of true. So that went well. And when we launched that report, it like blew our mind, because we kind of saw great feedback from the community. We even launched it on Product Hunt. That time, Product Hunt was very kind to reports. So right now they have just got some policies that are strictly for product, but at that time they were very kind to reports, and it did really well. We got lots of feedback, and many we got many signups as well. Like we talk about the revenue and the funnel attribution part of it. So that was there. But I think the real goal was connecting with our ICP, because let's face it, like brands are only built when your ICP knows you, not just like the people who purchase you. So I think that way it was a great win. And I'll also tell you something else that worked because of that report is we got lots of backlinks. So it kind of boosted our SEO as well, because people wanted those data points to quote in their blogs. So next time somebody was writing about open rates in real estate industry, they kind of referred our blog and referred our ebook, and we start getting like lots of backlinks because of that. So it was like a win-win situation for us, and that is how we decided we have to renew this tradition every year, and kept doing it, and it keeps working for us even now.
I think this is exactly how we should be approaching like a primary research report. Like this is the ideal way. Like, put yourself in the shoes of the ICP helps that you are also the ICP. But regardless, I think
Yeah.
just being able to kind of put yourself in those shoes and kind of figure out the questions and answers. I think what I hear here is yes, it was a research report, but it was also it was also a kind of fact finding mission to kind of, understand what worked, what
Correct.
didn't work, what were others thinking about it. So it kind of brought all of that together within this particular report. I think a lot of people, a lot of marketing teams kind of get into this whole, trap of let's do a research report. We will be able to drive downloads. We
Hmm.
will be able to, connect with like the ICP and things like that. But I think this is the best way to kind of approach it. And obviously it also helps that you were able to do like a very amazing product placement with this. I can only imagine how
Yeah.
easy it must have been for people to just kind of answer the questions within the email, because I think every single time I have to leave my inbox and go to another this thing and go through 10 hoops to kind of answer something.
Mm.
It just takes away, it kills my soul a little bit, if that's a way to kind
Yeah.
of put it. Uh, but I think amazing way to kind of marry all the different aspects here, like understanding the ICP, answering the most common questions that they have, also being able to kind of show how your product can do something similar even for the audience. A related question, any idea, like, did you guys take a look into how many people kind of started using Mailmodo to do this sort of research later? Because I think the product kind of lends itself beautifully
Uh,
in that aspect.
Actually, I'm not sure how many people start doing this because of the state of email report, but there are lots of people who use Mailmodo for sending out forms and collecting feedback and surveys from their subscribers. So that's a very big use case for interactive emails. Uh, as part of the state of email report, we also did this report on what kind of use cases are mostly done or are popular for interactive emails, and forms and surveys were like one of the top use cases that people actually used us for as an interactive email marketing platform back then. So yes, so many people used us, but again, like we did not know how many of them actually used it because of state of email.
It's difficult data point to also find. I think the more important aspect here is it definitely
Yes,
sparks ideas as to, this is also a way in which I could use this platform. I think that's the most important part of it.
correct.
Yeah, I think the
Yes.
whole, and we will kind of talk about this a little later as well when we get into, like, you guys do some amazing campaigns, but that comes a little later. I think what I would like to understand here is, so far we have chatted about, how you've gone about with the positioning, especially in early days. How did you,
Mm-hmm.
figure out the differentiating aspect for Mailmodo? Then we chatted about also, like, how did the channel validation kind of work? What was the logic behind going into those channels and all? And also, I think you mentioned out this very cool stuff that you have been doing for the last 4 years. I think one thing I would be very interested in learning is, like, how did you start growing the team? Like, you started off as, okay, technically, first marketing hire in a way after Akib, but how you've gone on to build like a team. So, how did that journey also start off? Did you kind of wait for a while until certain milestones were met before you started hiring for your team? Like, how did you approach that particular part of the
So
journey?
I think, yeah, that's something came out naturally, I would say, because we never thought about like hiring as like we have to increase our team to this number, but it eventually came around to that number because of the need that we had in the team. So back then, at one point of time, the work was so much that me and Akib were not able to manage. Akib also used to, as the CEO, used to like go on demo calls, used to like do a lot of things on the product, and so he also was limited in his bandwidth. And even if I like invested all of my bandwidth doing stuff, I was like still limited in what more things I could achieve. So that naturally led us to a solution where we want to hire a few folks. So by that time we were already working with lots of freelancers to help us with our blogs or guides for SEO. So that thing was already in motion. Like we had a good team of freelancers back then to kind of like write our blogs for us, and that was already there. So we started hiring in-house because we wanted to scale our uh, social media and community campaigns and all those things. Like we wanted to grow our brand on socials, and we wanted to be there for our ICP. Like I told you about lead magnets and assets that we wanted to create. So all that led to for me to like hire somebody that could have helped us with this. So the first person I hired, like they had a very specific competency in a like performance marketing, but that person was also very like good at figuring out things and helping out us with different kinds of problems that we wanted to do with Mailmodo. Like at that point of time, we also wanted to start a newsletter because again, that is also a great product placement for us. Like if you write a newsletter on how to do better emails and you go get a good number of subscribers and you are able to like place your product there and like kind of tell them or nurture them into into entering your pipeline, that's great, right? So we wanted to scale a lot of things back then, and that person like helped us with these things. And then slowly we also realized that the SEO team also needs somebody dedicated who can manage everybody like the freelancers, the content writers. So we put someone there. So basically, like I would tell you, it was a very natural evolution into the current shape and form of the team that we have, the current composition of the team. Of course, like we also like hired people when we saw that that person was could have contributed towards building Mailmodo's marketing arsenal in a great way, right? So if we found people who were like very enthusiastic and they were very competent and they had great ideas, Akib used to be very like on the lookout for such folks, and we used to like talk to them and that they like had a good fit with us. They want to work with us. We used to hire these people. So in the long run, like today we have like a very good team, which is like solid, I would say, and we do a lot of different kinds of campaigns, and the team is so structured that like now most of them can are specifics in the sense that they are like experts at many channels, but they're also generalist in the sense that you can like give them a marketing team to run and they'll be able to. So that's something like we always wanted because uh, marketing also has been evolving like as we like evolved ourselves. So yeah.
A couple of questions here. Like, what does the current structure of the team look like? Uh, from where you started to right now, like, how does I understand it's a team of generalists who have like this specialization, so to speak. So, how is it structured?
So initially, like as I told you, it was all dedicated, decided by the bandwidth that we wanted to invest in certain channels. But later, we had to settle down on certain kind of constrained pods to basically enable people to be able to like give their best, have something to focus on. Like if you keep moving people from one pod to another because of bandwidth issues, it's not going to work in the long run. So at one point of time we said that okay, we need to freeze the structure. So we knew what channels worked, and that pod system essentially came from our channels, like what worked for us. SEO worked for us, so we got an SEO manager who could like help us with optimizations on a daily basis, stuff like that, right? We had a content manager there who could actually make sure that the facts that we were writing, the editing standards of the articles, the optimizations for on-page stuff, that would have worked for us. Then we also like it goes without saying we already had hired our design team. So because again, marketing does not exist without design, at least in this digital SaaS universe that we are in. So that was there, and the other thing that was working for us was stuff that we're doing on social media, community, and email marketing, and with the assets and lead magnets. I call this product marketing slash brand marketing because for us, for me at least, in my mind, the product was the brand and the brand was the product in a way. So kind of we put people here who had like product marketing skill sets, but they could also like spin out content that was not just dedicated for product, right? They could create something like state of email, which is not specifically about Mailmodo, but they could also like plug Mailmodo inside such that it showed the best parts of your product to the ICP. So kind of like we had that pod, which was about positioning our brand and product in the market. And we had another pod that was dedicated to SEO. And we also like had a design team and a development team because our infra was such, our CMS and infra was such that we needed all of these stuff to work with us. So this is basically the current structure of the team right now as well. there are changes like we are trying a lot of stuffs with influencer marketing, and we tried some at some point we also tried performance marketing and stuff like that. But again, that keeps shuffling. So uh, it's all like what happens at that point of time. But this these core channels were already there, so these core pods have been through with us since a long time right now.
Got it. Got it. I think it's very useful and also very helpful to understand this. Uh, I think one thing which I'm kind of curious about, two things, to be honest. One is when you said community, like how do you look at community? Like, do you have a community of your own, or like like you mentioned the email geeks community,
Mhm.
or the clubhouse
Hmm.
community where you guys kind of went and kind of connected with the ICP there to also understand their problems.
Yes.
How do you kind of view community? I think that's my first question. Second question, I'll come to it later.
That's actually a great question because I think that kind of answers or brings to light this idea of like when we think of community, we think of a Slack community or a Discord community. In my mind, initially, communities was technically a bunch of communities, and also this abstract audience who are like really interested in email marketing, who are trying to up their game in email marketing, and they were looking for ideas and inspiration and best practices and stuff like that. So this abstract community was also there. Now this community used to find solutions and inspirations in different formats of social media or digital media. Like they used to go on Slack, they used to go on Twitter, they used to go on Reddit. So for us at one point of time, for me at least, all of this represented a community. Like it was an abstract concept. Again, like we had to tie down this abstract concept to something that was actionable at the end. So we said, okay, where do these people hang out? I think at that point of time, I was also inspired by this audience research thing that Rand Fishkin was talking about about with Spark Toro. So one of the things that cool things that really appealed to me at that point of time was that he said you need to find out where your community hangs out or where your ICP hangs out and kind of reach out to them. So for me, there was this ICP again, like ICP can be visible and visible, but there are lots of ICPs who want to be visible, who are like visible with their concerns, with their grievances, with their kind of needs. So that was the community for me. And now this community manifested itself in different formats. So as I said, email geeks was one place. Then there are like other channels, like even general marketing communities, they usually had a dedicated email marketing channel, right? So if you go to at that point of time, if you went at to like a super path, you would see something about email marketing. Product marketing alliance, even though they might not have something dedicated to email marketing, they had the entire product marketing was about life cycle, like had life cycle email marketing built in its DNA. So email marketing was kind of implied everywhere. So what happened as a result that we wanted to reach out to these people, tell them what we had in store for them, and if they would be interested in checking it out. That was there. So that was the community that people already had, and we wanted to be a part of it. That was one part of the community building stuff. The second was, as you mentioned, that we also tried to build our own community. That's like another story, but like we did not do great there. But again, like we had fun while doing it, but we had to like uh, ag- accept that okay, this needs a lot of effort, and we're not ready to invest so much time and effort in it at that time. So we have just like put it on, snooze mode for now.
I'll come on to the community part of it again, like later when we talk about, the
Yeah.
campaigns and things which kind of worked, didn't work. But I think before that, I kind of want to understand one thing. When you were talking about hiring, when you were talking about growing team, I think one thing that you mentioned was, and I think this is very specific probably to the person that you were talking about, but maybe, looking for people who are able to figure things out. and also like
Mhm.
they had the specific skill set. But over the years, over the last 4 years, how have you approached hiring from that team member number 1 to team member number 8, 9, whatever it is? Like, how has your hiring philosophy been? Like you also mentioned what Akib looks at when he's looking to hire. He's always on lookout for people with some interesting ideas and things like that. What has been
Mhm.
the hiring
Mhm.
philosophy for marketing team at Mailmodo, especially like with you at him?
So that's actually a very difficult question. I had to use that line at some point. So I think this question justifies that line. Because it's a difficult question, I'll tell you why it's a difficult question. Because uh, the requirements for hiring have evolved, I think, throughout. And I think the way we hire right now is very different from the way we used to hire, like, let's say 2 or 3 years back. Having said that, I think let me tell you what I think makes sense right now. So I'm not going to tell you the exact JD related things that we look at. Of course, you don't, I think your question was not about that. So one of the things that we really look in people is, as I mentioned, it might sound very moot and it might sound very cliched, but the problem solving attitude. Because I think, like, let's face it, because marketing is all about solving problems, and problems appear in many dimensions. It could be something like we are recording this chat, and something might not just, have a blip, and you need somebody to come up and get that thing sorted and keep the show running. So, in fact, like, we had those moments in Mailmodo, like we are doing some podcast recording and it's live, you're getting live streamed, and suddenly everything went ta-dum. And then we had to, like, bring our sense of like, kind of quell our sense of desperation, just look at the things and solve it and get back online. So stuff like that, like, that's a different kind of characteristic. But of course, we need people who can at least look at problems very objectively, and at least have an attitude, or I would say aptitude to solve that. I think I am not very sure if I am able to enunciate it exactly as in what it means, but I would tell you that, okay, let's say some people might say it's ownership, because let's face it, if you own something like it's your own, you would actually keep it neat and clean, which basically means you do housekeeping with the nitty gritties, the little problems, the big problems, which essentially is problem solving. So that is one thing I really look forward to people in, as in, like, what kind of, if I give them a challenge, if I throw something at them, how often are they going to come back with something that kind of like surprises me? And not just surprise, I think surprise is a very over expectation, I would say, but even like some decent solution for that. So that is one thing we look forward to, because as I told you, many things keep breaking. It's like, uh, behind the scene, everything is chaotic, but what you see is a smooth thing, because these people, these folks that we hire, they keep everything running. Like, it's some smooth, buttery process that is going on. So that is one thing I think is very important and I look forward to. And I think the other thing is, people who are at least like, uh, competent with whatever we are hiring them for, right? So, or at least know where they are in terms of competency. Like, what doesn't work is you say you're competent for something, but you're actually not. Like, so that sense of aptitude, that sense of competence is very important, because then you can calibrate where you want to place that person during your onboarding, or what kind of work you want to give them. You would not give them something that requires some kind of competency that that person might not have. So you would want them to, like, maybe like go through some processes to train up, to drill, get the drill, and then kind of sit on the table with us and chalk out whatever we are doing. So all those kinds of stuff is very important. So candidness, because if you're not candid, you would not have these kind of discussions with your manager or your reportee. So yeah, so these are some of the things I look forward to. But again, like, these are not like hard facts that we always look forward to. These are again like fundamentals, but we also like hire people who are have genuine good ideas, and they think that they might move some needle for us. So that is always there, as I already told you.
Got it. Got it. I think to me, everything that you said, I agree with it. And I think whatever you mentioned are kind of fundamentals. Uh, Working at startups is slightly different as compared to working at more established setups wherein there are like big
Mhm.
teams already present, and there is like a very clear line of ownership. Everyone knows what their lane is and what they have to stick to, and that's not the case with startups. Absolutely not. So I think what
Correct.
you kind of called out, the aptitude, the sense of maybe ownership or problem solving attitude, whatever it is, I think those make a lot of sense. And I think, like you said, marketing is constantly evolving. The way you kind of hired 4 years ago and the way you hire right now, it's going to be different. You're going to look for different
Correct.
skill sets. You're going to look for different things. But what remains constant in the background is always going to be these three, four things. As long as you have problem
Mhm.
solving skills, as long as you are self aware uh, of where you stand in terms of particular skills, competencies, you can still keep on leveling up. You can still figure out a way. And that's what matters when it comes to working in marketing. Every day is something new. There are 10 fires to put out.
Correct. Correct.
It doesn't change.
Yeah. Yeah. You are basically a firefighter for life. Hmm. As a marketer.
True. And I think what you answered right now, it kind of brings me to the it's a good segue into my next set of questions. And this is my
Mhm.
observation. So like I said, I've known about you guys for a while now, and I'm connected with like most of you on LinkedIn, so I see a lot of your posts. And I think one thing that I've noticed, so I want to talk about two things right now. One is, it's my
Mhm.
impression that the culture at Mailmodo, especially the culture at marketing team in Mailmodo, is fairly high velocity. You guys trend jack like anything. You kind of hop on trends very quickly, very responsive, and also kind of very witty. Like I find most of the folks of Mailmodo team, like marketing team, fairly witty. And I think one thing which also comes along with this is, as a team which is kind of trying out different sorts of campaigns, and we'll get into it in a while. But I think
Mhm.
I wrote to you personally on LinkedIn when I saw that campaign. That was Lady Whistledown campaign. Uh, After the Bridgerton season 1 or 2 came out, whatever it was, and I was like, my God, this is so creative. I love what you've done. And I see that everyone in your team kind of, comes together to kind of put it out. And the thing is, not everyone is posting the same thing. Everyone comes with their own unique take. And as a marketer, I always wonder, like, how do you manage to bring everyone into this very high velocity culture wherein everyone is kind of aligned, everyone is doing their thing, and this is not the only thing that you're doing. You're also kind of working on multiple campaigns. So my first question is, how have you built this high velocity culture, and how does the entire team kind of rally around it?
Yes. So, how do you rally a team around such speed and creativity? So, one thing at the outset that we recognized as a team, me as an individual, as a marketeer, as an individual marketeer, was that uh, novelty actually sells, right? So, there are basically few things that sell on the socials. One is clickbait, the other is novelty, right? And novelty, when you add the right message in the mix, it kind of becomes very sticky. So people will remember it, but they'll also remember the message that you shared with them. One of the reasons why we started looking at content that was not just about, right, text or some kind of report. So I've already mentioned about core technical reports that we did, but we also started experimenting with this channel where we were experimenting with novel ideas. So novel ideas can be technical as well, not like kind of gonna debate them, but I'll add some kind of edutainment in the mix. Like, how do you educate while you entertain? Because as I have said earlier, this entire exercise was building a rapport with your ICP. So kind of you also meet them where they are, and you don't just kind of push them into pipelines and funnels all the time. Okay. Okay. So how do you meet them where they are is where we said that, okay, people are inspired by cultural motives. They are inspired by the pop culture, the things that they have there in everyday life. And we also knew from like there's so many brands that they have been doing such kind of work. Like we're not like the lone example for this, because before us, like we found these brands that were like creating videos and ads that resonated with people. And it was not about just the product. It was about like placing the product in a very witty and a clever manner in some other setting. And that other setting is what resonated with people. And as a byproduct, they kind of uh, uh, got to know about your product and kind of learned it. So that is what drove these experiments for us, because we wanted to bring something novel and we wanted to use that edutainment factor to build more rapport with our ICP. So what we started doing, and this was not just based on some opinion or some ideas like it propounded just now. It was also based on the way our normal campaigns were performing. They're not performing really well. So after a certain point of time, you don't have anything new to say. You kind of just become the noise in the market. You don't become the leading voice. You don't, from voice you become a noise. So that kind of transition happened for us as well. So that is when we said we have to reinvent this entire thing. And at that time, I think one of the earliest videos on pop culture that we brought in from Mailmodo Productions, if I might say that, was about Money Heist. So, and that credit for that goes to Akib. So he actually, I think that time the last or the second last season of Money Heist had come. So what happened was, there's this character Arturo. Nobody likes that person, and then Akib said, "What if we say all the things that you shouldn't do in email marketing?" And say don't be like Arturo by saying that Arturo does all of these things. So that video essentially, if you look at it, it's available on our YouTube channel, is just saying, okay, showing scenes from the series where like Arturo is saying that, okay, I'll just forcefully enter this place. So kind of not caring about the consent of the users. And we were like, you should take consent from your subscribers. Don't send them spam emails. So stuff like that, that connected really well. And that once that worked, we kind of went into a rampage, though that rampage was not very like frequent, but kind of we took our time and kept inventing new things. So we did videos on Wednesday Adams. We did videos on Taylor Swift where we converted Taylor Swift songs into subject lines. Like, what if Taylor Swift songs were subject lines, right? So all those kinds of stuff we did, and essentially what that helped us, like there was also a debate. Like if you look from the outside, it looks all very glamorous, and if it does, I don't know if it does look glamorous, but of course it looks very exciting and entertaining and all that. But there's another debate that we were also having, and some of the people in the comment sections added like more insights on that debate. Was that uh, is it like okay to go soft on your message and high on entertainment? Like you are doing some Taylor Swift video on subject line, but how does that work for you? Like you're just like trying to create something that is not very technical, to be honest. Like kind of that is what I felt from some of the comments. So that was already a debate that I had. Like I didn't know like if this was the best way to go about, because so far we had done very technical reports like state of email and subject lines and these and that, and our guides are also very kind of technical. By technical I mean they were like very direct to the point. They served whatever problem statement they set out to serve in a very direct and very approachable manner. So this dilution with entertainment and pop culture. But I think one thing that set out, like how do you get like, and that brings me to the next point that you asked about, how do you rally the team? Because we, or like Akib himself and me, we are like very enthusiastic about novelty, as I said, which basically is like a kind of synonym or some kind of has a lot of connections with creativity. So you have to bring everything to become creative, or else like you don't be novel. Like the best way to become novel is to become creative. When you are creative, the wittiness, the humor, the novelty, all everything comes together, because those are the ways like creativity is like kind of bundled. Wittiness is bundled as creativity, something. So yeah, and it helped that the team that we had, they were also like in sync with us. Like some of the members, they were like geeks and nerds and bookworms, and they like binged watched seasons of Netflix. And so whenever we came up with idea, it was actually very easy to get the team to focus on it, because they wanted to do something like it. Like so for example, Taylor Swift, like there were so many Taylor Swift fans in the crowd. Like even outside of marketing team, we got so many people saying, "Okay, please do this," or something like when it went out, people were like, "Great that you did this." So that kind of support, I think people. One thing I've realized is everybody wants to do good work. So if kind of we can help them as leaders see that okay, this can potentially turn into something great at the end. I think it becomes very easy to bring people into the fold and get them to do, kind of execute it to the best of their abilities. So that was there. Like we had very clear ideas. Okay, this is what, and it was fun actually. So I'll give you one more little bit of tidbit about this. Like if you want to create a Taylor Swift video that has the songs as subject line, it involves a lot of steps, right? And it does not come like a summer daydream where just sleeping and you just wake up and say, okay, I have this idea. Okay, this is what I'm gonna make. It doesn't happen like that, right? So you actually have to go through lots of hoops and hurdles, and that is where the team had a lot of inputs to give, and they were kind of very enthusiastic about it, and they felt that I felt that it was very conducive for even like an environment where we get to discuss lots of ideas about Taylor Swift. We had like chats on why Wednesday Adams is a good season, and like how the episodes are, stuff like that. But also like that entire flow of structure where you just have a idea, okay, this is what we are gonna do. But as I said in the beginning, to convert ideas into reality, that is where the team kicked in, and they were kind of very enthusiastic about it. And I think uh, the I would not say that these campaigns were the like there's no way to for us to attribute these campaigns to stuff that really worked. But I think like this idea that we have to keep pushing the limits of creativity, because uh, we were very sure about this, and we are still sure that creativity is a sure way to create something very novel, something new, something fresh, and that really works. Like uh, today's marketing is an economy of attention, and it's not like some people say it's about attention span. I don't think people like binge watch 10 hours and 20 hours of series if they want to. It's just like if you get people hooked enough that they stick through. So we figured that we have to eventually go into this path and at least try it out. So it kind of worked well. So we are like also like in the end we ended up kind of creating an entire feature film documentary, uh, which okay, is known as the real lives of AI marketeers. So yeah, so it was like pretty crazy when we started doing all of these things.
So, from my understanding, basically you did like the very proper conventional marketing, which was reports, which was guides, blogs,
Yeah.
SEO content, founder led content, and everything. And then you realize that, okay, efficacy is probably not as much as it should be. We kind of need to get out of the rut in a way, or maybe, and I can see that you guys are still doing all those conventional marketing activities that you were doing in the past as well. You're still doing it to the date.
Mhm.
But I think in terms of kind of grabbing eyeballs, kind of, breaking the mold, these kind of activities, I think these are very brand led kind of campaigns. Yeah, like you
Yes.
mentioned, is it going to be possible to dot every single, lead and whatever it is that comes in from this? Probably not. But like, I'm also one of those products, right? I mean, I remember the whistle down campaign so well. So, which is why I was like, okay, yeah. I'll also tell you another interesting anecdote. I was speaking with a friend on weekend and like on Friday night or Saturday morning, I don't remember. And I told him that I'm speaking with you. And this guy heads marketing at Mailmodo, and he's like, wait a sec, I know Mailmodo, and he's never used Mailmodo before. I said, maybe you're connected with him on LinkedIn or something. He's like, no, I don't think I am, but I'm connected with someone else, someone named Sabah Heth. He had difficulty getting her name right, but then he keeps on seeing her post, so I know like Mailmodo. I did not even tell him the name first. I told him it's an interactive email kind of a platform, and he's like, Mailmodo hai kya? I was like, yes, it's Mailmodo. So that's the thing. Whatever things that you're doing right
Yeah.
on LinkedIn kind of work.
Yes. Thankfully, they did. Whatever extent they did.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the team is very like responsive. Sorry, you were saying something.
Responsiveness in general is a culture. Yeah. Sorry, I was saying, I think responsiveness is, in my observation, is like a culture which kind of stretches across levels and teams. Is my observation with
Hmm.
Mailmodo. In general, like
Yeah.
that has been my observation, and it's like a great place to be, especially for like from a customer perspective. Like you work with a team that is so active, responsive, interested. Then there can't be any complaints. I think my next question, Zishan, here is, I know that brand related campaigns kind of difficult to attribute and all, but and this is something I asked you when we first met as well. Like, how do you sell these
Mhm.
campaigns to your leadership? And you had some very interesting things to say. Please share them with the rest of the
Yeah.
bunch of marketers who will be reading
So
and
exactly.
this.
I Yeah, I already told you that Kib was very supportive. In fact, like he came up with some of these crazy campaign ideas, right? So that was very helpful for me because so basically what we had essentially issues with was what do you want to do lady whistle down or do you want to do something else? So that kind of conversations is what we used to have. But like I, like there were, I think some of the things that I've followed is that we also, as a marketing leader, you have to have certain kind of conviction. If not conviction, at least confidence in some of the ideas that you have. And I think uh, a certain level of freedom to execute those ideas, to experiment, is very much essential, or else like you cannot like mature your marketing motion into something that will work in the long run. Uh, because I'll tell you is that as I've said, like it's an economy of attention, right? So how do you actually bring the attention home? Is very difficult. Like you can do like traditional stuff like SEO and content marketing and stuff like that. But again, like you have to even in SEO, like I've seen like people go crazy creative with SEO. Like SEO, I don't I hope I'm not presenting SEO as something like really non-creative. It's not. It's like highly technical and very creative. So, like, there are people who are doing some amazing programmatic that did amazing programmatic SEO campaigns back then. Even those experiments, the scale of resources and the scale of time that you spend could be like something that many, you know, CEOs and founders might have issue with. But I think like it also you would never know if you don't actually do those things in the first place if they would have worked. So I think like as some poet actually said sometimes back that the most important questions and the most like woeful question that anybody can have at the end is what if? Like there are two situations you can be in. Like you can ask that what if questions before your pipeline dries up, or you can ask it after your pipeline dries up. So it's up to you. So and I think that communication of convincing your founder or your leader about what kind of campaigns is also dependent on what kind of relationship you have with them. Do they trust you enough? Do they like trust your vision of marketing? Do they like the version of marketing and the version of voice that you create for the brand? Does it like play at odds with their version of marketing for the brand? And these are very essential questions that you should have, or everybody should have discussions as marketing leaders with their founders. Because once you're not like, if you're on the same page and you know that your kind of founder trusts you, so it also gives you that kind of leniency to try different things and even fail at those things, because not all your campaigns are gonna work. In fact, most of your campaigns are gonna fail if you do experiments. That's how like experiments work. So I think like the most important thing here, as as you had mentioned, is that like you have to talk to your founders and be very sure that they trust you. I think that relationship is very important. You have to make that relationship work, or else like all these experiments. So essentially, like uh, be- even though I said that Akib was very helpful because he had see these ideas, it was also because I hope he trusted me with so much of these things to be enacted. So that was something that is built. And I think this education that you have to, like, if you cannot do brand marketing with things that are age old, you cannot do something. One of the things that I like keep telling my team as well as believe in is that you cannot expect different results by doing the same things over and over again. Exactly the novelty thing that I mentioned earlier. So you have to do new things, which basically means new experiments, which basically mean you have to have backup and support for all of those things. So yeah, so I think that helps you. That kind of like covers it. What I have.
I think that's a great way to kind of look at it and also explain it. Uh, I think for me, it was always just understanding. I think a lot of marketers, and this is not just me saying this, but a lot of marketers will come back with this thing that, our there is no way our leadership is ever going to approve of an idea like this. If it pushes the envelope, a lot of times people want to stick to the safe, same old ideas. Because it is risky to kind of step outside your comfort zone. And like you also mentioned, you also got comments when you kind of did a few things which were pushing the envelope. Like, is the message being diluted when we are, pushing an idea of this sort?
Correct.
So I think those concerns are kind of there, but you always have to kind of take risk, speak with your
Hmm.
leadership, with your founders, and obviously have that relationship of trust that the founder also knows that, this is being done in a way which is even if it fails, it's not going to kind of maybe blow up on our faces. I think
Exactly.
that's one way of looking at it. And I think that only happens when you've done like some iterations of work with them, when you have delivered on,
Hmm.
campaigns before. And
Correct.
that kind of trust comes into doing things and also like delivering on the
Hmm.
outcomes, so to speak. I think so, Zishan, that brings me to my next question. And this is again like something which I was very curious about. We spoke about like a whole lot of, interesting different campaigns, a lot of trend jacking based campaigns, a bunch of different things. What are some campaigns which are like kind of close to your heart? And I'm not going to just talk about, it doesn't have to be like brand marketing campaigns alone, but also the very conventional campaigns that you guys have been working on. So what are some campaigns which are like very close to your heart? What were some amazing wins that came out of it? What were some which didn't really work? Because not like you mentioned, most of the campaigns that you do or experiments that you do fail, but what's important is the learning that you get out of it. So would love to hear about those, because I think you're at one place wherein you guys try out like a bunch of different things. And I think the next aspect that I'm interested in hearing about this is, say for instance, the campaign that you very first mentioned, the very first thematic campaign you did, which was the money heist one, which came in from Akib. How did that go from idea execution to shipping? Like, what does that loop look like for you guys? Like, how speedily you guys ship things?
as I said, like we don't like usually come up with well formulated ideas, as in, okay, this is what the entire script is going to be. So we usually have an inception of idea, if I might. So basically, it means that, okay, this is the pop culture, and this is what we are going to use it in some manner or some form and create something that relates to our brand, that relates to our product, and will appeal to our ICP. Now, how do we translate it into reality is where most important part of that is coming up with a script. Like if it is a video, you come up with a script. Like I'm now trying to like detail out from that abstract inception into, some ground elements that actually come into play when you work out these things. So you need to first create a script that, if you're it's a video format, you need to create a script. For example, like some of these things, like we did something called email design for newbies. Initially we called it dummies, but then we had some copyright issues, then we moved it to email design for newbies. So what that was also very different. Like it was not a video. It was just a set of carousels posted on LinkedIn from time to time, and they got like amazing response from the entire like LinkedIn audience that we had. So now there also we did not have an idea. That was a very different kind of campaign because we just had one idea, and then we had to like filter that idea out into something that could be like represented on paper or in video. So in terms of video, we have to get that script sorted. And there we have to brainstorm what is the angle. So like for money heist to connect it with email marketing, there can be tons of stuff that you can do with that idea of money heist. Like uh and for example, like if I talk to you about Lady Whistledown as well, the Lady Whistledown, for us, some of these things stood out. Like, okay, this could be an idea. For example, in case of Lady Whistledown is somebody who sends out a newsletter, if I may, right? She basically sends out a periodical, and people read that. And then we said that, okay, that's very akin to a newsletter. She just didn't have Mailmodo or some email marketing tool back then. That is why she had to, do with all those paper. So we said, okay, what if Lady Whistledown had a newsletter? So it was a very simple, connect the dots stuff for that. From there, then you take it into like uh, that next part of imagination where you say that, okay, let's say Lady Whistledown did a newsletter. What would she do? So she would be talking about, okay, you can make her a thought leader for a newsletter as a newsletter influencer. You can like just say, okay, this is how a newsletter could have been. And then there are lots of possibilities. And this is where I told you the team comes into play. The team now then becomes very excited, and like they have lots of opinions, and that is where that democracy of ideas take place. And we like kind of come up with something that appeals to most of us. So kind of we are our first beta testers for the ideas. So if it does not appeal to most of us, so when we discuss some of these ideas, we bring in more people than are required in the group. Like sometimes we even bring the SEO folks into these discussions, because they just like, every marketeer is a marketeer. They might just add something of value. We do not know. So that is how it happens. Now, once you go from that, okay, this is the angle we are going to take, then you start writing the script. Like you mentioned, Sabayat is a great script writer at these things. So she kind of turns a lot of these things into amazing script. Nowadays, ChatGPT can also helps us a lot. So from there, then it's like a lot of marathon with the video designers and video editors, and like getting things sorted. One thing is there, like we always try to even do that differently. For example, with Lady Whistledown, we wanted to actually have Lady Whistledown narrated the way she narrates the entire Bridgerton story. So we had to get somebody with very similar, because we cannot hire the actual actor who played that part. So we had to get somebody who sounded very similar to Lady Whistledown to record that part. And again, that involves a lot of like ops. Like you have to go to Fiverr or Upwork and find these people, or like locate these people. Sometimes that does not work. In our case, like we ended up using an AI. So we had to like get that AI to work. So from Fiverr, we went into AI. So that is what I was also telling you. Like there are lots of problem solving, and it's not just limited to the kind of core competency you have as a marketer. You are like at one point talking to somebody on Fiverr. Now you're training an AI to talk like Lady Whistledown. So it's kind of like the game changes very fast, very soon. So once that is done, you have a script, you have back and forth with the designers, and until like at least a couple of us are very, very genuinely impressed with that video, we don't like let it see the light of the day. And then finally, then we plan the launch around it, which basically involves like thinking where we can seed it, where we can distribute it, which are the people who would find it really amazing, and so on and so forth. So basically, that is kind of the entire life cycle of a campaign for from a creativity point of view that we do at Mailmodo. I think the other question that you asked me was about which campaign kind of did really well for us, and so like in this like entire discussion, I think we have been talking about lots of brand campaigns, but we have done some amazing SEO campaigns. Like some of the best, some of the things that really worked well for us came from SEO, and not just the rote, blog and on-page SEO. We did lots of experiments there as well. So one of the things that really worked well for us, we created a programmatic SEO approach where we found out that people search for a number of subject lines, that they search for subject lines for welcome emails, they search for subject lines for uh, newsletters, and so on and so forth. So there are lots of keywords for that. So what we essentially did, we started creating subject lines for each of those, and we just had a very typical programmatic SEO funnel, and we did that. And like in a couple of months or maybe a quarter, we saw that particular folder shoot up from like it went to like 15 to 20K of traffic the time that we launched it. So that was really amazing. We also got some pretty good signups over the months from there. The other thing that worked really well for us, that also like came from SEO. Uh, and these are like some of the examples. Like I'm not saying the brand campaigns or this campaign did not work. Like at the outset, I think I should make this disclaimer that there is no way for me to judge which campaigns did what or contributed to what kind of mind shift in the community that I talked about earlier. So that's very difficult for me to judge. So, but I'm talking from a very like quantitative point of view here. So we basically had this idea that uh, we saw this keyword AI email writer, and we were at that point of time we had also started investing some productive efforts into bringing AI in Mailmodo and how do you use AI to create template generation and all those things. So at that point when we found this keyword, we said, okay, we need to create this. And it took us like one day to ship that out. We had our developer, we told them, okay, this is what you need to create. Okay, and these are the, you just use some UI that we have from some existing tool pages. And then that went from like a morning sprint to in the evening it was done. And in the next 4 to 5 days, it was already ranking in top 20. And we just had some off page exercises and on page exercises on that. And even today, it ranks on the second position in Google, and it brings us tons of traffic that also converts into sign up over like since then. So these are some of the campaigns that have really done well for us. Other than that, the brand campaigns, I think they are very subtle in the way they work. They are not like over the top, that they are not like, crying that, okay, we work, but they are like slowly seeping through your audiences, manipulating them where they are like least expecting to be manipulated, and kind of like educating them about your product, like in a very positive way. So I think that, like you mentioned about your friend, right? That happened because of the brand campaign. So some of these brand campaigns really worked. Most of these, I think, must have worked, or some of these worked in terms of sign up, but we were not able to attribute them as such. And some things that did not, I already mentioned community, right? So community was one thing that he said that, okay, let's try it out. Again, like community is a very different endeavor in its own right. And it needs a very specific skill set. It needs a very specific setup. We tried to set up a Slack community at first. We kind of like married it with a newsletter, as the audience from newsletter can like borrow this platform to get more queries answered or seek support or assistance or just camaraderie, So that was the idea. And then what happened was, in the end, like you're not able to bring that community to a very good level of excitement, not even like a very decent level of excitement. So what happened was we had to ultimately say that, okay, we are not gonna spend more time and bandwidth here. I think like it could work. Like we have like seen some examples of brands in B2B doing some really good community. For example, Lattice HQ does some great has a great community on HR, I think. So we are still like positive about it, just that like then we had to just uh pick the things that were working for us and like limit our experiments to things that we might have thought that okay, this might have a shot. So yeah.
Got it. I think, thank you. That was extremely detailed. I think, especially the first part of the response that you shared on how the whole, the loop works, right? From ideation to shipping. There's so much that goes into it. Like a lot of effort, again, a lot of problem solving muscle because you have to kind of iterate or pivot in case the typical solution doesn't really work. So it's kind of interesting to see that. And obviously, again, forms the base. The people that you hire should also be able to execute on ideas
Exactly.
this sort and also be able to build
Yeah.
that creative
You
muscle. Like what you kind of put out,
exactly.
is it dependent on that? So
For sure.
that usually lends, sorry, please go ahead.
No, no, no. I'm not saying anything. I
Okay.
was just agreeing.
So I think for me, there would, okay, okay. I think to me, it was very interesting to see this entire kind of a loop, and it was very detailed as well. And this loop will look so different for each idea that you kind of execute. It will look very different. So
Correct.
I think for me, still it is great to see that the whole. I think to execute and to bring that level of vision to it is very important. And hats off to you and the team for kind of doing that. I think my part or the response, which was on the second part, which is like campaigns that kind of worked, that were close to your heart, and kind of did not go through. I think one thing which it's been interesting to kind of understand the evolution of, how you've been doing marketing from like day one at Mailmodo to what you've been doing right now. We've spoken about campaigns, we have spoken about, how you've been doing this as a team, how the whole team kind of, comes together, the culture, so to speak. I think before we kind of head to the final part of this conversation, one thing that I would love to understand is uh, what are the goals or the metrics that you've owned as an individual, as a marketing head, as a marketing lead earlier, or from day one to whatever it is that you're doing right now? How have the goals and the KPIs kind of evolved for you and the team? Uh, please, would love to hear about that.
Okay. So yeah. So the regarding KPIs as an individual, that has of course like evolved from day one. Like when I joined, we had just launched Mailmodo, and today like we are in a very different spot. So of course that has evolved. Like more responsibilities have been added, more ownership is there. That having said that, I think like quantitatively, the main KPI that we had initially as a marketing team in the beginning was also like connected to sign up. Recently, like we have started working more on the pipeline stuff because we get lots of signups, but again, like we want to also investigate the quality of those signups. So even that has become something that we have to work on. So there are technically, if you look at it from a very, bird's eye view, of course, the pipeline part of KPI is really important, and we kind of track them and we kind of project them month on month or quarter by quarter, and we kind of achieve those goals. That is there. But we also want to build this brand and get the positioning out for whatever we are working at that point of time. For example, I'll tell you one thing that Mailmodo right now we are evolving as the AI email marketing automation suite for the future. So we are trying to bring this position of AI email marketing platform with Mailmodo, along with the interactivity and the general email marketing things that we have. So AI is going to augment email marketers in saving time in doing better email marketing. Now, all that role that KPI falls into this purview of brand marketing or product marketing, whatever you prefer, right, to call it. Because so how do you track that goal? But we have that goal as one of the KPIs, and again, it's not a KPI because you cannot measure it, but we have that as a goal for the marketing team. So basically, whenever we have this discussion, we have this qualitative goal of bringing out that leadership position or that brand position out in the market, and we also have this qualitative measurable metric associated with it, which is basically either your sign up or your pipeline, and we work with that. And we at Mailmodo we work closely with the sales team because we are kind of a PLG slash SLG company right now, and sales is very instrumental for us to help customers understand and move on with the product. So we essentially work with them, and it basically means that some of the numbers are co-owned by us and the sales team. So again, like that's again kind of a combined view that we bring to the organization as the GTM team. So how we do it actually is we and how does it trickle down to the individual KPIs that you mentioned? So it happens that these broad team level KPIs are owned by me as the head of marketing, and like for the sales, the same goes for the head of sales, and both of us as well own something combined that helps the organizations and the organization in the long run. Excuse me. And what happens is that now each of our team members, whatever channel they are working on, we also define very channel level KPIs. For let's say you're working on SEO, so your KPI is something related with SEO. Now it might be connected with the core KPI of the marketing team, which is like the pipeline, but it can also be something not directly connected with that. For example, with the brand campaigns, you cannot do that. You cannot like predict, okay, this campaign is going to bring so much of dollars of revenue in the pipeline. So what we essentially do is we also do a track of channel level metrics. And that also becomes a very good criteria because one of the goals is you outperform yourself in every channel. That's one of the way to look at it, to understand that you are doing as much as you could with the given resources and time. So once we have that kind of KPI, I think that kind of solves itself. And again, like as I mentioned, we have a team level KPI which is directly connected with the revenue of the business, and essentially we are helping our business grow not just in terms of brand but also in terms of revenue.
I think it's kind of interesting to also see like how the KPIs also evolve as a team, as at an individual level, like especially as the business matures. And I think for you, I think you guys are in your what are your thoughts on how your GTM has evolved from your 0 to 1 to whatever it is right now? Like how has your GTM kind of evolved and looks like right now?
Okay, so I think the right word that would explain that kind of evolution is, I would say, basically consolidation. So, when we were in our 0 to 1 journey, we were trying many channels. We are like very uh, infrequent sometimes, and sometimes like very accidental about those channels. But I think after a certain point of time, when we kind of got the confidence as well as our company started growing, we started freezing out the channels that, okay, this is going to work. So let's invest time, money, and team in this. And also, like, we started consolidating and scaling each channel. So basically, that is, I would say, like, when you are like very raw and fresh and you're just trying to move from zero and trying to go to 1 mil. So the journey, I think, was for us as it is for many like of our peers, is that you're trying to find the best thing that works in the shortest time, and you're trying to make good with that. So for us, that was also the case. And I think what we have done is like we have started scaling that each of those channels that worked for us. in the past in a bigger conflagration or in a bigger cluster with, as I said, teams and resources into it. What has also changed is our risk taking appetite. Is what it means is that now we can even not just take risks with campaigns, we can take risks with channels as well. So, for example, I told you about our community experiment. We would not have done it in a 0 to 1 journey. We have done it now because now we can kind of take that kind of risk. So I think what has happened as we have matured is that we have become sure of some channels. We have started scaling them up, which basically means getting more in depth into. So now that, for example, in our earlier stage of SEO, we were just writing blogs and doing on page, but now we are like, not just now, I'll say like 2 years back, we were doing programmatic SEO. We were like we investing a lot of resources on improving our page speed. We were like very curious about different kinds of things that might help us with SEO. So all of those kinds of things, basically, we went a lot vertical and detailed in terms of depth of that subject matter, and that also essentially meant that we had to have team that would help us carry that carry that kind of work into that department or that vertical. So that was one. So we started consolidating each channel and kind of start scaling up whatever we thought, okay, this is working. One of the reasons you see something like state of onboarding or state of email. So so state of emails has definitely like evolved into something, not just evolved into, like it has given a way to something called state of onboarding today, where like we have created a very similar kind of report, but it is only about onboarding, and we have been very creative with it. So back then what we created was an ebook. Today we have the resources to build it into an app. So basically you don't have to read the report. You just have to enter what kind of PLG or SLG motion you have, what kind of premium free trial or pricing model you have, and then the report is kind of tailored to your specific things. We couldn't have done it before. So basically what it has meant is that as we have matured, our marketing has improved quality wise, has scaled, and now we have more risk taking appetite in terms of channels and campaigns as well.
Makes sense. I think I see where your pod structure comes from. We discussed this earlier in the conversation, but yeah, it kind of lends to that. Got it. Okay. Zishan, moving to the final part of conversation. Again, this is something which is there on pretty much everyone's mind, and we kind of talk a lot about it when we meet different marketers. But how are you using AI at work? And when I say that, what I would like to understand is more of like, what does your current AI stack look like? And how do you guys decide what you're going to be automating or using AI for versus not? And do you think that it has kind of changed the productivity at the team level or even the capabilities for that matter? For instance, one use case that you mentioned, the lady whistle down campaign, when you wanted to do like a voiceover, you had to firstly go to Fiverr. Then you realized, okay, there is a better option to do this. An AI voice will also be like useful enough. So something of that
Yes.
sort. Yeah. So those are like my broad level questions with this.
So I think you would have to be in a shell not to acknowledge or use AI at this point of time, which in fact, like at Mailmodo, we have at least tried to become good adopters of AI, because as at a product level also we believe that AI is the way forward. And in fact, like as I mentioned earlier, we have started uh, incorporating AI into our product structures as well. What it means is that now you can generate templates and journeys and automations with AI. With respect to marketing, I think there are two major things that we have done with like major aspects in which we can understand how we have started using AI. One is to use AI to create campaigns in a very faster manner, I think. And the second was is to do things that would not have been possible without AI in the past. So, for example, I give you an example. In the first sense, like you said, you rightly pointed out the lady whistle down example. Like we found an alternative in AI. So that is one way we have been using it. Like we have been replacing a lot of things with AI. This also lends a lot of speed and mobility to the team. For example, like we wanted to create a SAS quiz for onboarding. So earlier, what it and that meant that uh, my team wanted to build a website on around that, a new landing page. That landing page would have an app like SAS quiz. So there will be questions flashing on the screen, and somebody would answer that, and then it will lead to next question. And in the end, you would get your scores, and you can share all those scores on LinkedIn or other social platforms. Now, in the earlier days, to build this, you would need a developer, 2 to 3 days of time, and like even a designer in the fray. So essentially, and it meant that basically it was a blocker for my team to execute this campaign. But with AI, what they did was they went to Lovable and coded it. So Sabayat, you mentioned you were already connected to her, was leading this campaign. So she just went to Lovable. She tried out a few prompts, and then there we are. We just hosted it, got developers to host it because that is where we need some help. And finally, like that campaign was out within a day, at least ready to be promoted. So this kind of speed manifestations or speed increment is already there. So that is already increasing our efficiency. So there are lots of brainstormings that we do with AI. For example, if you want to create some campaigns, that goes to AI. And we have been incorporating AI into a lot of our assets. For example, State of Email we launched in 2025. It also came with an AI bot of its own. We used some RAG to like ingest that ebook and then had a chatbot that would answer your questions so that you don't have to read through the entirety of the report just to uh, get to one data point. So that was already there. So that is also happening, like as we as I mentioned. So we are trying to like find where we can put AI to improve something. And the third, I said, like we are doing things that would not have been possible before. For example, we created something called Deliverability Deep Dive, which is a podcast series. Now if you listen to it, you would not know, like it hasn't been recorded professionally by two humans. So basically, how it came about was that Notebook LM became very popular because Notebook LM was very instrumental in creating very human-like podcast interactions between two people, and that gave us an idea. Like, why don't we? And at that time, we were trying to create a course on deliverability, and we said, why don't we just use this to create a podcast that can also serve as a course that people can just read through it and then they get educated about deliverability. So that is what essentially happened. And we recorded it on Notebook LM and we put it out as a course and it worked. So it would not have been possible without AI before. We would have to had go through a lot of lens and we would not even think in this direction if it was not for tools like Notebook LM and others that make it possible. So yeah, AI is like helping us a lot in many ways, and we are also trying to adopt a lot of our processes where it is possible. And automation wise, I think we had already been using a lot of automations using Zapier and Pipedream earlier. So we are just keeping things as they are there so that we don't have to kind of change a lot of things. So, but yeah, wherever we think that AI can still improve this, we are trying to like improve those automations with AI. So essentially, this is what we have been doing with AI so far.
Got it. I think very interesting to hear like how you've been using this to make campaigns go like a little faster. And I think that's one place where AI has been like a major respite for all of us, right? We all know the dependencies we have on tech team, and if we are able to take it away,
Mhm.
the time to ship kind of comes down considerably. So that's definitely like a huge win for us. Just like a follow up question on this, in terms of like I wouldn't say like maybe money saved or time. I don't know how to put this, but how are you tracking like how AI is benefiting you as a team at a more holistic level? Like, are you looking at this in terms of dollars saved by otherwise having to engage, like, maybe external freelancers, or maybe it's in terms of time saved? How are you guys kind of looking at how AI is benefiting
I
you?
think that's a question we have not like we have not like thought about that question in exactly those words, I would say. Like we have not been tracking essentially like how AI is helping us, but we have been using AI a lot. I would say like in terms of tracking time, I think that is one of the things that I've noticed it has impacted a lot in the sense that it has cut down the turnaround time for lots of campaigns by almost, let's say, 50%. The other thing is it has not like in many campaigns, it has not cut down the time, but it has improved the quality of those campaigns. For example, like uh, you can now get more ideas from AI for a particular campaign. You can do certain kind of data analysis that was not possible earlier. So, of course, like there is this time factor that I've noticed that it has like considerably helped us. I mentioned like earlier, it would have taken us to create that SaaS quiz website 3 days. We did it in a day. So essentially, I think once we are all like because drilled into this uh, uh, competencies of using AI, I think it will like be a lot of time saving for us, and essentially that means dollar saving. So again, like we are also looking at this in terms of how speedier our campaign turnarounds are and how many campaigns can we fit in where earlier we would have fit in a lot lesser campaigns. So that is, I think, the real benefit of using AI. And as I said, like it is also helping us with a lot of quality checks. For example, like you can uh, we can like you can just enter a blog and ask AI to roast it. It'll give you a very decent review of that, which basically means that my editor doesn't have to sit through a lot of it. Like some of the basic things will be available there. For example, like earlier, like when we used to write very product facing materials, we have to go through a lot of stuff. Now we have got a custom GPT that is trained on all our support docs. So basically, the writer just has to ask the right questions and it fetches the right answers from all the support docs and present it there and then. Basically, cuts the time and improves the ergonomics to a lot and like a very good extent.
Got it. I think considering where we all are in terms of AI adoption, and this is a very common thread and common response that I've seen. We are just right now currently looking for different ways to adopt. But I think in terms of like money saved or things like that, we have not reached that stage of, evolution in our journeys with AI. So yeah, I
Yeah,
think that makes complete
I
sense.
think, yeah.
Got it. Okay,
Yeah,
great.
but I think like
Firstly,
there will be reports on state of AI in marketing which would like definitely talk of these things in like if not
true.
today, maybe tomorrow.
Let's see what happens in December. Like December, Jan is the time when all these reports kind of come out, right? So if
Yeah.
something of that sort of coming in, then we are like maybe a couple of months away from reading a report of that sort.
Yes.
Perfect.
Let's
Great.
hope, fingers crossed.
Zish,
Hmm.
fingers crossed. Okay. Zishan, thank you so much for this wonderful conversation and for so generously and so openly sharing so many things that you've been doing and working on at Mailmodo. It was enlightening, and I'm very excited about doing like this entirely different format. And so glad that you were the first guest that I got to do this with. Thank you so much.
I think it was great like talking to you, learning from you, as well as like vibing with you, I might add, because I think that really I think you had some amazing questions and you carried the conversations forward really well. So thanks a lot, first of all, for inviting me and for conducting this entire interview so graciously.